Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to a new week of online home learning. Well done so far. You're doing really, really well with everything you're doing. I'm really impressed by the work that's been submitted. I'm really, really pleased with you, so well done. This is our English, and I'm going to take you through this week's learning. This is our last week on suspense writing, and the idea of this week is we're going to produce our little suspense story from start to finish. Before we start something completely different, completely new next week. Right, so the I can today is I can write my own suspense narrative, and that's going to run through the next 4 days. Right, last week, what did we do? We looked at how to write a successful piece of suspense writing. That's the first thing we did, and we looked at the features of suspense writing. We looked at a couple of examples of really high quality suspense writing. We did a lesson on describing an eerie setting, so those skills of how you can describe a setting. Particularly a spooky one or an eerie one. We did a lesson on varying our sentence types and lengths, so trying to combine longer sentences with multiple clauses with shorter sentences for effect. And we also did a lesson on Friday in which we wrote a conversation, some dialogue between two characters. And those are lots of the skills you need for suspense writing. And I put a comment at the bottom there. You are now well skilled in suspense writing. I'm very confident that all of you are capable of writing a really, really high quality piece of suspenseful narrative. And that's what we're going to do this week. Before we start, quick recap. What are the features of successful suspense writing? Well, it's thinking about your vocabulary you use, how you describe the settings, thinking about your verb choices, such as words like shuffled or mumbled, the way you speak, or muttered and things like that. Describing what you can see and what you hear and feel. The big one, don't give everything away. Keep building it up, building it up, building it up. Keep that reader hooked in till the very end. Varying those sentence lengths. Some short, shocking sentences for effect. I don't know whether it says effective, it should say for effect. Just change that now. And some longer sentences with multiple clauses in as well. And those one-word sentences, bang, crash, drip, 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 drip. Build it up, build it up, build it up. Ellipses for pauses, and trying to, you don't have to directly tell the reader that you're feeling scared. You can do it through the actions and the characters' emotions and the way that they're behaving. So heart pounding in her chest and things like that. Okay, you're well skilled in suspense writing now. Looking at some of the writing you sent me back last week. So this week, this is a bit I've been looking forward to all the way through, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. They absolutely loved doing this last year, because what we're going to do is we're going to write our own suspense narrative, and it's all related to our school. Okay, so it's all going to be about Brinley Heath, and it's going to use lots of the skills we learned last week, and it will mirror lots of the things you did last week, but it's now all about this new setting, this new place, using those skills and going for it a little bit. And I've got a few pictures there, suspense. And if you can see there, that's my little picture of Brinley Heath, but all creepy-fied and eerie and derelict and abandoned. Okay. So to set the scene, what's going to happen here is I'm going to give you a bit of a scenario that will run through the week. And the scenario is that you're sort of on the half-term holidays or something, but you've forgotten something and you need to head back to school to get it. So the classic example, you've forgotten a lunchbox, or you've forgotten your reading book, or you've forgotten your bag or something, and you need to head back to school to go and get it in the half-term holidays. But when you get back, it's all changed. And everything's gone a little bit strange and a little bit creepy, and it's something that's kind of mysterious about the school. Okay, what I've done is to make it easier, I did this last year, is I've put an example opening to your story that you can use that sets the scene. Now, when you write yours out, you'll need this opening. And I'm quite, if you really want to, you can literally just take this one as it is and just copy that again. Or please feel free to change it and adapt it as you see fit. But this is basically just setting the opening to the story. And I've called it, I've given my own title, Brinley Haunted Heath. Again, you can put whatever title you want. So it says, if only I'd remembered my lunchbox in the first place. If only I'd picked it up when Mr. Mans reminded us. If only I hadn't been so foolish. It was early one morning in the half-term holidays, and I was heading back to school with my friend, I don't know, Nicola, because I'd forgotten to take my lunch box home the last day. Mum was absolutely furious with me, so we had to go back to get it. When we arrived at the school gates, we couldn't quite believe our eyes. So that's just setting the scene, a bit of a flashback for us. And you can use that if you want to, or change it or adapt it how you want. It doesn't have to be a lunchbox, it can be whatever you want. And try and make it so you come back with a friend, okay? Because that'll help with writing speech later on. Could be 2 friends if you wanted. So, next page. Now, how this is going to work, so let's set the scene so you know what we're going to be writing about. I've tried to put together a bit of a structure for the week, so that you kind of know where you're trying to get to each day, in terms of like not going ahead too much. Sometimes we go off on tangents, just so we kind of keep a general structure. So for this week, we're going to write our fictional suspense narrative all about Brinley Heath. You and a friend, or you and a couple of friends, have returned to school at the half-term holidays, but everything's a little bit different, a little bit eerie. In today's lesson, what you're going to do, a bit like in the Waggle and the structure from last week, the first part will be describing that setting. When you get back to school and from the outside, everything looks a bit strange. We'll come on to that in a bit. Then Tuesday's lesson tomorrow, what we're going to do is then we're going to start moving into the school, perhaps into the corridor way, just making our way through the first door, through the entrance. And again, sort of doing descriptions of what's going on inside there, what you see as you walk into the hallway, maybe through the library and into the hall. Again, describing the building, describing the setting, and using all the skills of suspense writing that we've used so far. Remember, not rushing to the end, day by day. Each day, really, if you do about a paragraph, about half a page, over the 4 days, you'll have a 2-page piece of writing. Wednesday. A bit like the lesson we did last Friday to do with conversation dialogue. Wednesdays will be around doing some speech between you and your friends, sort of about, and you'll kind of be in the hallway or in the library area or in the assembly hall or something like that, and a bit of a conversation. And then Thursday you will write your ending, and it'll be a suspenseful ending as you make your way into the classroom. And don't give it away, leave it all to the reader's imagination. All right, so we can come on to that on Thursday. All the way through this, this is our evolve and exhibit stage. And evolve is like making our new piece. So we've learned the skills of suspense writing, and now we're going to create our final piece, and we're going to exhibit it, we're going to publish it. We're not going to draft it out and then rewrite it at the end, because I don't think that would be that much fun for you at home. What we're going to do instead is day by day you're going to publish your final piece. So we've got 4 days to do this. So you're going to create your final copy as you go along and take that pride and care from start to finish. So you could draft it out and then rewrite it day by day, 1 paragraph at a time, or just go straight into your final piece as you go along. But by Thursday, the whole thing will be finished. So in order to do that, what I'll just explain now. You're going to create a published version that you are really proud of over these 4 days. And I want you to be really, really creative. What I've done on Teams is I've put a document in there that's got some pictures. So for example, if you did want to, you could print those pictures out if you have a printer. That's fine. That's something you could print out, and you could maybe stick them around your piece as you're making it. If it was me, however, I don't have a printer at home. What I would do is I'd probably maybe use some of those pictures as inspiration and maybe draw some pictures around the outside and use some of those things as sort of a guide for what I want it to look like. And it doesn't have to be those pictures as such, but sort of those eerie, spooky pictures. There's also a template on there. And again, it's something, if you wanted, and if you had a printer, you could print that off if you wanted to. Again, I haven't got a printer at home, so I wouldn't do that. What I would do is kind of this sort of one here. I would use that and maybe draw my own little template around the outside, maybe if I wanted to, a bit like that, because you could do that with pen and pencil or anything you want. So that hand-drawn effect. Now, it's completely up to you. I do not mind whether this is done on pen and paper. I do not mind if you have a printer and you print things out. I do not mind if you draw pictures. I want you to be really creative and do it in the way that you want to do it. This is just 3 examples of pieces I've been sent in over the last week or so of children being really imaginative and creative in different ways. So this one here, obviously the child has got a computer and they've worked on the computer to do the writing, and then on the background they've done a sort of a bit of artwork with the watercolour paints. That looks amazing. Here taking some of the images that maybe and drawing their own sort of images on the background and then writing around it. And this one here I think is really great because it's just really well presented work with beautiful handwriting. And you can't see very well here, but it's just that kind of scattered shading in the background that creates that wintry effect. And it's just, again, is equally as effective. So it's any way you want, and like I say, it says here, use the images if you want, draw the images if you want, present it how you want, something you love and are excited by, pen and paper, computer, hand-drawn, cut out, I don't mind. Be you, be proud, and do it day by day, okay? I'm just going to pause the video there. So that's what we're aiming for over the 4 days, and we'll do it one day at a time, building it up and presenting it how you want to present it. So, day one, what you're going to do is you're going to write a description of the school as you get back to it. The school itself, something strange has happened to it, and I've put there, the school now looks decrepit, dilapidated and run down. There is something strange, spooky and mysterious about it. Something is not quite right. And here it says there, you can use the scaffold to support if you wish, but you don't have to follow this. I'll come on to the scaffold in a minute. So what I've got here is a picture of our school looking a little bit creepy and a little bit spooky. You can see that grey effect across it, and everything's a little bit untidy and blemished and things like that. So that's a bit of inspiration. And then I've also got a picture of what the sky looks like as you come to school. And it's that moody, eerie, creepy sky, grey clouds, swirling wind, howling wind. That is what you're going to be describing. That's what happens as you come back to school. Again, to support you, and this is part of your scaffold, we've got lots of those words that we were using last week. So synonyms for old, those ones there. Synonyms for scary, those words there. The sky and the atmosphere, well, grey clouds filled the sky, the wind howled, groaned, moaned, the clouds felt like they were pushing down on me, the sky was closing in, the sky was a picture of fury. Just added some more words there: moody, angry, furious, aggressive, tense, eerie, trapped. So there's something peculiar. And then I've done a little bit more for you there. It's about to do with the building. Picture the building with moss covering the walls. Perhaps there's vines crawling up the entrance gates. The field is covered in litter. Windows are smashed. Lights are flickering off. Litter all over the car park. And the building just looks like it's aged, it's abandoned, it's derelict. Okay, so I want you to try and picture that in your head. If you came back to school, that's what's happened. The only thing I'm going to stop you doing on this is I don't want anything to do with blood or anything like that, or gore. It's all to do with like bits like moss or vines crawling up the gates and things like that, and leaves covering all over the car park and things. Okay, so that's the setting that we're going to use. And your task is to write a description of the school as you get there. You're starting this suspense narrative. And very similar to last week, when you described a spooky abandoned house, you're going to do the same thing again, but now you're going to relate it to Brinley Heath. And I've put here to refer to the scaffold sheet. And this is this sheet here. I put this onto Teams. This is all of the things that are going to support you in writing this piece of writing. So we've got the vocabulary bank there. Then we've got our scaffold that you can use. And I've said here, you can steal this opening part. That's the bit I talked about earlier, if only I remembered my things. You can steal that directly, or you can reword it to change it yourself. You need to start off with that so that the story makes sense. And then what you're going to do is describe the setting. Okay? And what I've put on here is the waggle from last week, which describes a house abandoned in the middle of nowhere. Now, obviously, that gives you a general structure you could follow, but you've got to relate that to the school. So when I'm saying description of the school building, well, the front, the entrance, the gates, the school field, the car park, the sky, the wind, the atmosphere, describing all those things at the start. And then in the example, when it says all of a sudden one of the windows should slam, bang, it's just a window top itself. So something happening, and then some sort of speech at the end there. Okay? There are the pictures to inspire your writing. The keys to success are the same as last week. Descriptive vocabulary, but this time relating to school, the sky, the atmosphere. varied sentence types and lengths, accurate punctuation, different senses, and most importantly, the start of this story, you need to create that sense of unease and mystery. I don't want you to go into school yet, by the way. I just want you to describe it from being outside. As a stretch that you can all aim for, sort of things I'd be looking for at a higher level, personification, the wind groaning and things like that. The trees hissing in the wind or something. Some mysterious or sounds similar to room 13. There was a noise, something whispered something. And obviously your adventurous punctuation. Can you include some adventurous punctuation such as dashes used carefully, or ellipses, or exclamation marks, question marks, semicolons? Okay, so that's what I want you to do. And what I'm going to do now is just start to model how I would write the opening to this story. So my job here is to take this opening and write my own description of the setting of Brinley Heath as I've returned, okay, using the key to success, using the stretch. And what I've got here is that scaffold that's on your sheet that you can keep looking at. And I'm just going to take exactly what's written at the start bit, because I'm just going to use that as it is. Again, you can change it if you want to. I'm going to have it as my lunchbox, if only I'm being so foolish. And I was heading back to school with my friend. I'm going to use the same friend as last week. I'm going to use Nicola. Because I've got to take my lunchbox home, when we were at the school gates, we couldn't quite believe our eyes. Now I need to describe this setting. And I'm going to use this scaffold to support me, because that's what I feel I need to help me. You do not need to use this directly if you don't want to. You've learned the skills now. This is exactly what you did last week, but just applying it to a different setting. So that's up to you how you go about this. Use as much or as little as you want to of it, but remember you're trying to describe the setting. Right, twisted branches covered the outside wall, cobwebs swamped the door frame, a half-broken door handle was covered in moss. This house was terrifying. So I need to say, I'm going to have a go at using those structures there. The entrance hall was covered in a strange looking substance. Maybe it was moss or something. The gates were crawling with vines. The entrance gates. What else can I write about here? So I've written about the entrance hall, the entrance gates, the school field. The school field was, I was going to say covered, but I'm going to use a better verb choice, engulfed in litter. What? So I'm going to go away from the scaffold a bit here now, because I'm like, what had happened? What had happened? I'm going to repeat that. What had happened to our school? I couldn't believe my eyes. What had happened to my school? Oh, question mark. I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So already, because I'm feeling confident now, I'm moving away from those scaffolds. I'm just referring them to support me. The entrance hall was covered in a strange looking something. Maybe it was moss or something. The entrance gates were crawling with vines. The school field was engulfed in litter. What had happened? What had happened to our school? My school. So there's editing as go along. I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was so strange. And something wasn't right. I'm going to have a look. So I've kind of gone off on my own ideas there, describing the setting, moving away from that scaffold. I'm having a look at something. The house was terrifying. Or I might use something like that. That's really good. The school looked, I don't want to use the word terrifying. Let's have a look back at my scaffold sheet. The school was disturbing. The school looked peculiar, almost disturbing. I'm going to leave it there. Right, so let's read it back. The entrance hall was covered in a strange looking substance. Maybe it was moss or something. The entrance gates were crawling with vines. The school field was engulfed in litter. What had happened? What had happened to our school? My school? I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was so strange, and something, I'm going to use a pause there, dot, 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 and something wasn't right. The school looked peculiar, almost disturbing. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Okay, so you can see how already I've only started this using that scaffold to help me, and already I've come up with quite a bit. Then I'll have a look at that next line, see if it inspires me in any way. The house itself was small, no bigger than a bungalow. So the house hasn't changed, the building hasn't changed, the school looks the same. So I'm going to say something. The school looked the same. Semicolon, it was the same size. It was the same building. But there was something about it. Something had changed in the last week. Okay, so I'm building that up idea of how the school feels, something's changed. I'm going to talk about the fact that it's derelict. Derelict means it's abandoned, and it's aged a little bit. It looks like it's old. Something had changed in the last week. It was clearly derelict, or it was clearly empty. Empty means derelict. It was clearly empty. Semicolon. It was clearly derelict. Dash. Nobody was here. It was almost as if the school had aged 100 years in a week. Tired. I'm going to use some emotion. Tired. Run down. Oh, I'm going to have a look back at my vocabulary bank. Tired. Run down. Decaying. Crumbling. Decaying. The walls crumbling in front of my very eyes. My heart sank. My blood chilled, or my body, my heart sank. My body froze. My school. My heart sank. My body froze. My school, my school seemed to have changed completely. Okay, so these are all my own ideas now. Using the scaffold as support, using the skills from last week, and then I'll keep working through that. And what I haven't done at the minute, I haven't talked about the sky. You look at the scaffold, the sky, the wind, the atmosphere, the wind howling, the sky turned grey. There was a mysterious sound, something happened, and then speech. But I'm going to leave that now because I don't want to give you too many ideas. What I want you to do is to take all our skills that we've learned, use some of my ideas, use the scaffold, use the support sheet, and have a go at writing your opening to your story about haunted Brinley Heath. Don't move inside the school yet. Okay, that's really, really important. And when you're finished, have a look back through the support sheet, have a look at your keys to success and compare the keys to success, compare your writing keys to success, have a look at the stretch, see if you've done any of those as well, and then begin to think about how you're going to publish day by day as you go along. Okay. I hope that makes sense, guys. The children last year absolutely loved doing this, and they wrote some amazing pieces of writing. And over the next 4 days, we're going to build this up until we finish our haunted Brinley Heath. Before I go, I'm just going to read back from the start so you get the idea. It says, if only I'd remembered my lunchbox in the first place. If only I'd picked it up when Mr. Mans reminded us. If only I hadn't been so foolish. It was early one morning in the half-term holidays, and I was heading back to school with my friend Nicola because I'd forgotten to take my lunchbox home on the last day. Mum was absolutely furious with me, so we had to go back to get it. So you can change that bit to how you want, but you need to have something like that in. When we arrived at the school gates, we couldn't quite believe our eyes. And here I start doing my description. The entrance hall was covered in a strange-looking substance. I'm going to say that's the door, actually, because we're not going to get it. The entrance door was covered in a strange-looking substance. Maybe it was moss or something. The entrance gates were crawling with vines. The school field was engulfed in litter. What had happened? What had happened to our school? My school? I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was so strange, and something wasn't right. The school looked peculiar, almost disturbing. I felt a shiver run down my fat spine. The school looked the same. It was the same size. It was the same building, but there was something about it. Something had changed in the last week. It was clearly empty. It was clearly derelict. Nobody was here. Oh, I'm going to put one word for effect in here. Nobody was here. Abandoned. It was almost as if the school had aged 100 years in a week. Tired, run down, decaying. The walls were crumbling in front of my very eyes. My heart sank. My body froze. My school seems to have changed completely. And that's not finished, remember. I would carry that on and write about more things there. In terms of what you're looking for, about half a page today, guys, I'd say. And we'll do half a page each day, building up for about a 2-page piece. Okay, any questions, please log on to the live chat and I'll happily talk it through with you. Okay, have lots of fun and I can't wait to read them. See you later, guys. Bye.